Hey guys, today is August 6th. Um, got a lot of things have been happening in current time. In some kind of update news, I've managed to. Come on, I can't get this light right. In update news, I've managed to kind of get ahead on the videos, so I'm posting videos and adding them to the channel and scheduling them to go live. Ahead of, so instead of just doing one and then posting it and then waiting a few days and then doing another and then posting it, I'm actually able to get ahead a little bit, which is kind of a weird transition for me, but it's nice being able to post the videos and, you know, just kind of get a rhythm going. So I've been feeling a lot of success in that. Recently, actually very recently, I've been dealing with a lot of just a lot of depression and stuff. To be expected. Mine and Brittany's anniversary was July 21st, and it's a thing. Like, me and Brittany never really. I'm not gonna say we never celebrated. We did. We always celebrated, but we never remembered. Both of us were. I think we remembered once in the entirety of our time together. We remembered, oh, hey, let's do something for our anniversary. So when Brittany's grandmother texted me and said, hey, you know, like, take care of yourself. I know, you know, your and Brittany's anniversary is coming up in a couple of days. I was like, wait, what? I was blindsided. It was, I thought I would be okay because it was like, oh, you know, we barely ever celebrated, and, you know, so it's just gonna not really impact me all that much. But it did, it really did. I got very emotional, just very down in the dumps. I'm still kind of working through it. But I think over the last few days I've been a little bit better coming out of it. So that was the last couple of weeks, really, last week, building up to it. You know, like I said, it's August 6th now, so it's been a couple of weeks. But more importantly, I think I want to come on here and talk about what happened to me the other day. And in order for me to explain why this is important and why this makes sense, I have to go back 20 years. So 20 years ago, roughly, I was sitting at a dinner table with my family, and my mother had just made this giant pot of gumbo. And if you know anything about the South, we get creative with our spices. So my mother had this, you know, you put in these things called bay leaves. You're not supposed to eat them. They sit in the pot and they add flavor, and then you pull them out if you have them in your dish. Well, one of them was cracked in half, and I didn't see it in the spoon. So I took a bite of it and swallowed. And sure enough, it, instead of going down the pipe with the rest of the food, it went down the trachea, and it actually slid past the larynx, the voice box, and got stuck inside my bronchial tubes, in my you know, essentially on the way to the lungs. And I began choking. My father did the Heimlich maneuver, literally saved my life. But they had to take me to the hospital. They poked around, looked inside. They actually shoved a tube up my nose and down my lungs. They made me hum to get this tube down into my throat, because you got to vibrate your larynx. So it goes down, and they're like, oh yeah, we see it. You got a leaf lodged in there. And it's like, oh, crud. So within the hour, I was in surgery. They literally had to knock me unconscious and stick a vacuum down into me and pull out the bay leaf, which resulted in the most expensive bowl of gumbo that I've ever had in my life. So fast forward 20 years later, my pastor invited me out to dinner 2 days ago. At this point, 2 or 3 days, 2 days ago. He was doing a kind of a thing with some church plant guys. And I got to meet these guys, and they were really cool. And we went out to El Sombrero, Brittany's favorite restaurant. And I was like, I've been isolating for several days, several weeks. So I think it's time. I need to start cracking through my shell and start getting more active. And I tried to embrace, this. And what a better way to do it than like getting with fellow believers and just jumping in and just trying to enjoy something. And plus, I'll be at mine and Brittany's favorite restaurant, so no harm, no foul. So I'm there, and we're chatting and talking and whatever, and I'm joining in the conversation. Take a bite of food, and I feel that same telltale feeling that I felt oh so many years ago. It was a piece of lettuce sliding down the wrong pipe, and I felt it slowly wedge itself in my larynx, and I felt it. I immediately remembered the sensation. I remembered everything about it, and I was like, this can't be happening. This cannot be happening right now again 20 years later. Like, this is ridiculous. Like, no. So sure enough, here I am with surrounded by people, some people that I've known very well the last few years. The last 10 years, I guess 5 years, whatever. And some people that I had only just met that day. And I put my fork on my plate and go, I know what's happening. This has happened to me before. I need to go to the hospital and right now. So you can imagine, the shock of these guys that, whatever. So anyway, my pastors, they drove me to the hospital. They didn't want me to drive myself, and I thank them for that. And I get there, and I'm thinking to myself, this is going to be bad. I'm all nervous. And I'm sitting in the waiting room. They do x-rays, they check out my chest, and I'm waiting for the results back. So I'm waiting in that waiting room, and my pastor is now sitting in the waiting area, and I'm in an inside waiting area. So I'm sitting there by myself, and just kind of nervous as all get out. And sure enough, a gentleman who's sitting there begins talking to me. And I kid you not, this man had nearly the exact same story as me and Brittany. He married a younger woman. She was diagnosed with cancer within 1 year of them being married. And they, essentially she died. And she's been gone for, several years for him. And he was talking about his current, wife. He got remarried, and he was talking about her and some of the situations that's popped up, and we're sitting here. There were so many things where I was just like, yeah, that reminds me of my wife. And I was telling him, and I would tell him my story, and that would spark him telling more stuff about his wife. And then we just kept going back and forth, and it was like, oh yeah, mine did that too. Oh yeah, my wife did that too. So the entire time I'm sitting there with this guy, and my fear goes away. I'm no longer worried about this leaf stuck in my throat. And as soon as the conversation kind of lulls, like, that whenever you're about to change conversation topics, and all of a sudden, like, all right, let's talk about something else now. The nurse pops her head into the thing, looks at me and goes, Mr. Myers? And I'm like, okay. So I go and follow. I figure, going to hear what the next step, what they're going to do with this lettuce that's stuck in my throat. And they say, well, we checked your lungs. There's no, your lungs are very sensitive. They will, react if there's, if you've popped any of these little things in there. If you've got something obstructing your airway, your lungs are sensitive. They will it'll show up. We can't see the obstruction. We can't see anything in your lungs. Your pulse ox is perfectly fine. Your airway's not obstructed, and lettuce is water soluble. He's like, now we could send you to a location that can do this procedure to extract this thing, but the closest place that we have that's open at this time of night is about 4 hours away from here. So I would have to go to New Orleans. So that's the closest place, or since your pulse ox is good, it's water soluble, chances are it's not there anymore. You probably coughed it up and swallowed it, and you just irritated the lining of your throat and you just feel it there. Chances are that's what happened. So we're just going to send you home. I'm going to give you a number for an ENT, an ear, nose, throat doctor. They can perform that procedure on a Monday. So take 2 pills and call me in the morning. And so they just sent me home immediately after that conversation was over. So I'm feeling frustrated and kind of, just blown away by this. Like, really? Like, that's the answer? Like, I'm sitting here I can feel a piece of lettuce still stuck in my throat, and they're just going to send me home. Like, how ridiculous is that? And I sit down, I walk out into the waiting area where my pastor is waiting. He's waiting to bring me back to my car since they drove me. And I sit down and I just start, I tell him what happened. He's like, all right, well, let's get you back to your car. You okay to drive? I'm like, yeah, I'm fine to drive. Let's go. So on the drive back, I'm sitting there and I tell him about this experience of literally just interacting with this guy and telling him all the weird coincidences that just happened, and how it seemed so poignant that I was literally dropped into a situation with this seemingly life-threatening thing that happened to be nothing, or nothing according to the hospital, with just enough time to commiserate and to uplift and receive uplifting from a guy who went through nearly the exact same thing that I did. And I'm sitting here telling my pastor that, and he's like, well, what counsel did you give him and what did he give you? And I kind of went into details and I just kind of ended that thought, and I was like, like, Pastor, I said, you ever seen The Matrix? And he's a pretty contemporary guy. He's like, yeah, I've seen The Matrix. He's like, there's a scene in The Matrix where Morpheus, one of the characters, gives this speech where he says, like, at this point, where everybody else sees coincidence, I don't see coincidence. I see providence. I see what is supposed to be happening at this very moment. So of course we have an answer to our problems. Let's go do it. So I tell my pastor, after everything I've experienced and everything that I've seen, that just is kind of my take. Like, that's kind of the way that I am now. I've seen so much, been through so much, that my only response is, when there's a coincidental thing happening, it's like, yeah, of course it would be this way. Of course it looks like this. Why wouldn't it be? So I'm on the drive home from a 4-hour hospital stay where nothing happened. And I got to be in this, I literally got shuttled to a person who I needed to interact with, and then immediately shuttled away. I don't know if I needed to talk to him or if he needed to talk to me or whatever, but it feels important. And it's kind of hard not to see importance in everything whenever you've seen stuff like that all your life. Heck, even this story to me and Brittany, it just feels normal. It feels like just the normal set of occurrences for us. It's just the way it is. So it's been a couple of days since the lettuce incident. So how am I feeling now? I still kind of feel it in there. It may be dissolving. It may not be. I don't know. I've been sleeping upright, so I've been really achy. There's a lot of aches and pains that I have. So I spent the last 2 days sleeping like that. So I don't know if I'm going to be feeling much better tomorrow. But that being said, I don't know. I feel like by tomorrow, I may not feel it in my throat at all. Either A, it dissolved, or B, it was never there to begin with. I had actually just coughed it up, and I only imagined not imagined it, but I felt the scraping that it did as it went down into my trachea, and my brain has registered that as sort of like a phantom, injury or a phantom thing stuck there. So whatever has happened, I will learn in a couple of days, or I will learn by tomorrow or the next day, and I'll go forth. Whether I go to the ENT or not, I'm okay. I'm not doing anything. Oh, and for those of you worried, well, isn't it going to get sucked down further into your lungs? Apparently, that's not a thing. Apparently, when something gets stuck in your bronchial tubes or trachea, it stays there, which is totally bizarre to me. I'd think that it would be able to like slide and go all over the place, but the two separate nurses I spoke to were like, no, so it's very hard for it to be dislodged. Like once it's there, it's pretty much there, which is just weird to me. So I've still been pretty ginger with the way I've been acting. Haven't been working out, haven't been running, but it's just kind of odd. So anyway, yeah, I guess I'll bring you back to your regularly scheduled programming now. So yeah, have a good one, guys.